This is Hacker Architects. We've got Hacker Laura, not to be confused with Library Laura.
Yeah, lots of Lauras.
Sarah, Ping, and our owner's representative, Ricardo. He can explain what he does later. And we're just going to get started. We're also taping. So we can post it on our website and share it with people who weren't able to come tonight. So thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Yeah, well, thank you for coming. It's really important to us as the design team to talk to the community before any pencil hits the paper, before we've done any design work, to really understand what you want in the library, what kind of spaces, how do you want it to feel, what works in this library, what doesn't work, what you might want to change. So that's what tonight's all about. And if you could go to the, do we have a clicker? Yeah. So tonight, we'll just, we've done the introductions. We're going to talk a little bit about the project timeline and then the scope, site, and opportunities of the project. Sarah's going to talk about library design thinking, and then we're going to break out and do some workshop visiting sessions around the room. We'll explain that in the presentation. Okay, so just a little bit about Hacker Architects. One of our specialties is library designs, particularly in smaller communities, kind of 25,000-ish. About 20,000 square foot buildings, and what we love to do is really come and understand the communities and build libraries that really reflect and embed the community in their design and really fit where they are in the world. So what are we doing in this stage of design? We're engaging the community to get input and ideas. It's going to inform our building program, and what that is a document that's going to list out all the spaces that we're going to plan to design into the library. And then from that, we're going to create a conceptual design. What's it going to look and feel like? And then once we have that, we'll have a cost estimate for then the library to work on getting fundraising. And then once that the funding is in place, we'll go into even more design work and refinement. This is the project schedule. So we're in pre-design, and we have this community meeting. And we'll wrap that up pretty soon in the next couple weeks. There's some more events planned, actually, that the library's doing. I think about 4 in the next few weeks, which will be very similar tonight, trying to get input. And then once we have that, we're going to kick into concept design, and we're going to have another community meeting, which will have design options to weigh in on. Project introduction. I'll switch over? Unless you feel good. So just a brief description of the project as we see it now. We're going to be renovating this 6,000 square foot library and building a new addition of about 12,000, so 2 times the size, for a total of about an 18,000 square foot building. And that we're playing with those numbers now, and we'll have to balance that with cost. But in order to plan it, we really want your ideas for the library. Big spaces that we know we're going to have a separate teen area, a new adult area, a children's space, study rooms, meeting areas, staff areas, a nice community event room, and special collections area.
What's a special collections area?
Well, the library has a heritage collection.
And our genealogy collection. Another one would be our library of things, which are not books, they're not media. They are board games, curriculum crates. We also have some things we haven't cataloged yet, like sewing machines and things like that.
Wow.
Okay, so we have done some preliminary work and brainstorming with library staff and library board, and have been working on a draft vision statement for the project, which we just wanted to share to help give some more insight into what we're looking to achieve. And I'll just read that right off the screen if you want to follow along. The Jefferson County Library will be exemplary of an inclusive and adaptable space for educating, engaging, and uplifting diverse communities in Central Oregon. It will connect to and extend patronage by providing warm, comfortable, and safe environment that encourages exploration. And so in addition to that, our team has been looking at what are opportunities just on this site as a way to get some of this thinking going for your activities today. One of the first things we think is special about this library site is that it's located in a neighborhood. But even though it's located in a neighborhood. It's connected to your community. It has a direct access to your downtown area. It's along a common pathway to the elementary school and to a park. Additionally, it's on a prominent corner. It's easy to see as you're kind of driving down 5th Street. You can kind of look down E and see where that is. And we're wondering, how can we really strengthen that connection it has to E Street and make a presence for the building on the block. In addition to that, since it is an expansion, we're wondering what we can do formally to make it feel like one big library, not a before and an after. Laura reminded me earlier, one of the things we commonly say with this diagram is that we're not proposing you get a big blue opaque building, but we're just kind of trying to put some shape on there to start understanding and studying what the right size and scale might be for the space. And that includes also inside the library. How do we renovate this existing building to make it cohesive with what the expansion will be? But all that to say that, as Laura enforced earlier, we really want this library to serve your community, and that's why we're looking for your feedback here today. And so as you get going through the activities and looking around the board, we wanted to present some things that we're seeing in library design now that might help spur some new ideas for you as a reference point. So I think one of the first things we're observing, right, is that libraries are really a place to connect. I think, there's been a period of time in a library where it was really a place to get a book and read and do some solo study, but now we're seeing more opportunities for people to engage with one another and the community within a space. And also to connect to art and the outdoors. There's other programs and services that the library can provide to the community and how we connect to the place that we're in beyond just the formal function itself. We also see them as a place to educate about sustainability. Within projects, you could include a green roof or a special way you're heating the building or photovoltaics to show how you're contributing to positive change in the world. And they're places to create. I think earlier today we were having this same session and there was some activity going on over there, some craft activity. So I think it's really expanding the thinking about what the library can do for everyone. And in thinking about kids areas in particular, they're also a place to play and learn and kind of thinking beyond what story time is and what other spaces within that children's area could support your youth. And not just really young, tiny children, but also your teens, tweens, and young adults, maybe considering having them have their own space because they're not children anymore and they're not quite adults and they have their own needs and things they're interested in. So I think that sounds like a lot of activity, and as I started at the beginning saying, there's a shift in libraries from being a place to focus, but there still is a need for people to be able to focus and read and study, and there's just a really diverse set of needs that libraries are needing to address. And in addition to that, there are places to share, either meeting in a room with somebody on a special project or taking a Zoom call, but also a place for communities to gather, do exactly what we're doing right now. Or, we have some libraries that use their community room for a knitting circle, things like that. So really, how do we accommodate that? And when thinking about a service model for a library, like you have an info desk, really starting to see a few different ways that can take place. Maybe instead of being a front door, it's something that's more modular and located in different reading rooms throughout the library, or even more presence of self-checkout so people can kind of guide themselves in and out of the library as well. And to celebrate, this is always my favorite one, to celebrate your community. This is a project that we worked on in Beaverton, Oregon, where the structure of the building was designed to really emulate the trees and the experience of walking in the trees in that landscape. So one of the activities we have here today is trying to think about how could the design of this library really reflect your community, your landscape, your culture. And adapt. So with all these varying needs that we're looking to serve in the library, how can we use the space that we built in multiple ways? So the example shown here is a children's area, a community room that can also be a children's area, right? Did I get that right? Okay. So there's a wall kind of between them, and so that space is able to flex and adapt for children's activities or craft activities or knitting circles or whatever you need, in addition to being just a smaller, more dedicated space for a smaller group to focus. There's a big wall here. You can see that. and to prepare. So this is a big investment into your community, and it will certainly not be the last time that a change needs to be made to serve the community. So when we're designing the library, we want to think of how much can we design in flexibility for you all. So the example we're showing here, there's no columns in the middle of the floor plate. It's very different than what I showed previously, but that would allow your library staff to be able to reconfigure the library more freely as programs change over time. And evolve. So one thing that we saw really coming out of the pandemic was how libraries were expanding to use their outdoor space to provide programs as well. And that people really appreciated that. And that's something we can continue to build off of when we're thinking about library design. This is one library we have under construction right now in Woodland, Washington, where there's actually a wall that opens up out into a courtyard for the library, so people can kind of extend their reading experience or their activities out there. And then similarly, a courtyard and a space in Washougal, Washington. Okay, so now to the activity portion of the evening. So we've designed a series of workshops on these boards that I'll talk through in a moment. But the goal of each of these boards are to do the following. One, to understand what spaces you'd like us to prioritize and what features would support your community so that we can really build out that list of spaces and what those functions are that Laura talked about earlier. And to understand what qualities and characteristics of a built space will resonate with or reflect your community. So I guess more plainly speaking, what does it look like? And how does that look like things that you see in your community or that you feel really tied to? And during this time together, we envision there will be multiple people at boards at the same time, and so we just want to make some agreements to each other. One, that every voice is important. We're going to make sure that we're making space for all of you to be heard when we're facilitating these activities. And that we'd also request that we say, step up, step back. If you're somebody that doesn't really speak out into a room often and share your thoughts, we'd love to encourage you to come forward and share what you're thinking with us. And if you're somebody that shares a lot and there's somebody next to you that maybe is having a hard time getting their comment in, maybe just take a step back and hear them for a moment. And then my favorite one is to explain why. I'm an interior designer, and I think when we were talking about colors and materials and things, sometimes a lot of really strong reactions come up, and I want to hear those, but I also want to understand, like, why don't you like purple? What's the association you have with that we should be avoiding? That really helps us to get to a deeper understanding of how we can help solve the problem for you. So I'll walk through the exercises now. So Pung, I'm going to ask you to wave. Just hey, everyone. That's Pung. Pung's going to be at the board. Oh, and Ricardo. Ricardo's there too.
I'm right back here.
He's going to. Oh no, sorry, Laura. Oh my gosh.
Well, Pung will be over here.
Okay, Laura. Pung will move over here.
This board.
This first exercise, we're just wanting to understand what functions of this current library do you use always, sometimes, and never. We have green dots for always, yellow dots for sometimes, and red dots for never. And there's a plan of the library there. You can see we kind of kept the dots people put on from this morning, as it's a good demonstration of how this activity goes. But it's really like a heat map for us about where people are going, what are they using, and we also understand what you're not using and why. Is there a design reason or a functional reason we can help address in the design of the new library? Okay. Now where Ricardo is where Laura will be in a little bit, kind of in the back 3 boards of the room. The boards are laid out like this, and there's images for each major section of the library program. So children's, teens, adults, study spaces, common spaces, outdoor. And what we're looking for is for you to put stickers on images that you really like, and then Post-its kind of telling us what about that image was really resonating for you. For example, if you see this image and you think, wow, we really need stroller parking, you maybe put a dot on it and you would say, never a place to put my stroller, would love to have more room, like as an example of how to use that. So there's one of those for each of those sections.
And I'll also add, the colors of the dots for those don't really matter. Any dot means I like it, and there's hearts for I love it. And also if you see a comment, so you can put that dot on the image that you like, but if you also see a comment from the earlier section that you really like, instead of having to write it out again, you can just put a dot on it, and then we can see if a comment gets lots of endorsements that multiple people are thinking the same thing, so it's really helpful.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Cool. And then finally, I will be over at this station, And what we're looking for here, we have a collage we've pulled together just of some general imagery of Jefferson County landscape, history, culture, industry. And what we're hoping to do is we have like, I think over 100 little image cards here of materials or colors or even more landscape images. And what we're really wanting to understand from that is for you to take an image, stick it on the board, maybe use a little white post-it to tell us why you like it or why you like it and why it resonates with you in reflecting Jefferson County. And with that, once we're done with this, the design team will take it back and really kind of go through everything that we've heard and seen, and we'll bring it into design options with more like renderings and pictures of what the potential building could look like in mid-March to get another round of feedback from everybody.